connecting the film with reality in a way, like with the outside reality and the traumas from, specifically from the place you came from and your community, and I believe the community that made this film. And besides the whole use of the AI, the last image, it's a concrete one, and the shelter. And I wanted to understand these choices specifically because you do a film that play around the perception of the end and what's about to come in this apocalyptic world, but at the same time you start and finish the film based in what's really true in a way. So I wanted to understand how this came about for you, because of course you're dealing with many things again that come from traumas, real traumas, but at the same time you explore many possibilities from that, but you base that on the truth for the beginning and the end. So I wanted to understand those choices specifically.
Well, thank you for staying. The idea was not to the idea to do a science fiction film, like a speculative fiction film, was not to try to predict the future and try to deal with the future as a kind of a shadow that projects itself into the present. But sadly, and when I say this, it's like the flood was since in the beginning of the script, and sadly, the flood happened throughout the shooting, which was something that was too hard to deal with in terms of course, all the consequences to the city and the state. And of course, we had to stop the film for 3 months. And to understand again, what is the relevance of cinema in front of such tragedy? So in some way, physically, we all understood that the film, as we were thinking since the beginning, were not exactly about the future, but about the present. So the film plays, the title of the film plays in a sort of an irony, I think. Especially because it's 2 times future, and then we can talk about this. I mean, this choice. But I think it's difficult to express what the flood meant to the film, because at some moment after 2 months of waiting to and not being sure that we would be able to finish the shooting after the flood, at some point I was like thinking, okay, I'm not finishing this film because it's like impossible, you know, and we lost money and we lost hope. I mean, I think it was like a huge trauma that we were trying to deal for all of us. It was a flood that affected many colleagues in the film and friends and families. But I think in the end of the day, it's that this sort of solidarity that we saw during the flood, that was the most inspiring thing, and that gave me the idea to finish the film with that sequence, because that sequence is specifically were in a different place, but somehow the universe were playing like, I don't know, it was meant to be there in the film in the end. And what was the rest of the question? I don't remember, but oh yeah, and there was another thing that I think it was important to me since the beginning, which was that I knew that the things that I wanted to talk about this, to address with this film, and to imagine about the future, and I mean to reflect about the future, were not about technology itself. And it's much more about the ideology that is hidden within the technology, which means that it was a choice to create a world in the film that was different from the mainstream cinema in terms of what we know and what we saw for many decades of science fiction films, especially from the US. You know what I mean? So it was important. At some point, we were discussing about having so many screens in the film, you know, in the streets, you know, like Blade Runner and stuff. Yeah. And it was on purpose to decide not to have those things, you know, to create like a different world, like an opposite kind of world. Like empty, I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does, but I was also curious if the idea was inside you, like maybe longer before, and and became possible to express this emptiness of this world through AI. Like you needed AI to exist, to put this in perspective, like to change, including this the references, like you just mentioned the Blade Runner idea of this future and stuff. So like it happens a lot of times in cinema that sometimes the director, the filmmakers, they have the need of expressing something, but eventually the tools are not there. But AI, especially in the way that you use and you created everything, right?
Yeah.
So if it was, I don't think the word is a compliment, but like necessity for you to make this expression work.
Yeah, I mean, AI was since the beginning of the film in terms of concept, and I knew that I wanted to have some sort of AI images throughout the film, but I wasn't sure exactly how much. But then what happened was that we were trying to shoot there's like many private neighborhoods for the elite in Porto Alegre right now. I don't know if this exists in Los Angeles or in other places, but in Porto Alegre it's becoming quite common.
Closed.
Like completely private. It's like a city within the city, you know? And they're these places, they are like trying to emulate Dubai and Miami, you know, it's quite weird. And we were trying to go there to shoot the end of the film, like when the character goes to the rich neighborhood. But of course we didn't have the permission. I mean, they were like, I mean, the first minute they said no. And then we became like really desperate to understand what we could do without those places, and then we found like a kind of industrial location that we somehow pretended, that we faked that it was the private neighborhood. But this place specifically was flooded and was destroyed in the flood. And then we didn't have any other options. So throughout this 2-3 months, when we were trying to understand what to do, AI became like some sort of a nightmare of the only option. And then I decided to jump in, like literally and radically use AI as this kind of a nightmarish imagery that is exactly, I'm like stealing the same style of the images that those private neighborhoods are selling in the city. Like the advertising images that they use is the same style. So it somehow made sense to me to navigate through, I don't know, enemy territory, you know, AI and those images that they are trying to sell. And it was tough because, I mean, I spent like 3 or 4 months throughout the editing doing these images by myself and learning how to do it. And it's like, it's the worst thing. I don't recommend. I mean, this thing is, but I mean, yeah. And once again, it's like those, I really believe in this kind of a synchronicity. Yeah. Maybe it was meant to be, I don't know. And it was the only option that we had.
I think it's very interesting. There's I think there's a key scene for me that you make the opposite of the emptiness of the AI and the limit of the AI against the humanity of Silvio. And you do put this word in his mouth, and there's something connecting, like the film will explore those images that once again they are make kind of impossible, the idea of those artificial images, but at the same time in this scene specifically you put Silvio to speak, and the actor is the actor of your first film, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And it's which comes from such an organic and alive place, and I really find it beautiful that he's the person to say that when they cannot recognize a face, I do, right? Like face recognition, I'm the one who do, or to complete a text, I'm the one who does it, but I don't have a colleague, I don't have a boss. And I think it's very, I don't know, in a way I was kind of tripping about the idea of you needed this familiar figure over there to kind of still root everything, like not to lose the inside of the absurd of the apocalypse. And I think it's very beautiful because it kind of summarizes for me the film, this kind of search of the humanity that they can still have in this kind of situation. So I wanted to understand if he was the choice to portray this character since the beginning, and this connection was in you.
It was, he was, and I tell you, I think the last time that I shot in Porto Alegre, my city where I live, was 2013, when I did Castanho with him. So all the other films that I've done were in the countryside without him. And I had this feeling that he was this sort of my guide in the city. And somehow I needed him with me because I was too afraid to come back to my city after so many years to shoot there. It's a city that I don't exactly understand how to shoot there, because it's too much for me. And probably that's why my films are, when I'm doing films in Porto Alegre, I'm like going to, how can I say, I'm trying to go far from the places that I know, because for me it's too difficult to be where I know, you know. In Castanha, for me, it's like my guide. He goes with me, and I have this feeling that everything will be alright with him. And I was so lucky that he was there, and I think like the kind of a friendship that we have throughout these years. I mean, since we did our first film, like this passion that we share for cinema. I think in some ways it is in the film, like you said, this kind of a humanity that's the most important thing for us, and for the film. I think at the end of the day, it's what matters. Yeah. In the end of the film, and it's with him for sure. It's within him.
It really, I really like it, and it's kind of a question, but I'm not. You don't have to answer, but the sex scene kind of reminds me of a film that I really like by Elangi Goji. It's called Restê Vertical.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I love his films.
And,
I love his films.
And the sex scene kind of it's his film also in a specific world, let's say, and yeah, I really like it because it kind of brings life to the narrative that I think is very interesting. Anyway, questions. Feelings? No,
I have
everybody
a
shy?
question. Why
Okay.
is it hard for you to film there? Like, I guess I'm not from there. I have no idea what you're talking about. So you're like, oh, it's really hard for me to go back and film my old neighborhood. Is it dangerous, or like, what's the story there? Like,
Why it's
can't-
hard
Yeah.
Yeah.
to shoot there?
Yeah, like, why is it hard for you to shoot there?
No, it's not because it's dangerous. I think it is dangerous, of course, like any other Brazilian city, but it's not because of that. I think it's because probably because the cinema, the cinema from Porto Alegre, where I'm from, they're mostly set in the same area, which is the central area. And there's some sort of, how can I put it? I think there's some sort of a limitation in terms of what we know about Porto Alegre, you know? Because the cinema that exists in cinema, like Porto Alegre exists in the cinema, it's so little. So when I think about making a film in Porto Alegre, I have like this sort of a rejection immediately to not shoot in the same places where all the films are set. Because I think it's really sad that we don't see the other areas. And the other faces, like the actors, you know, we have like just a short part, like a small part of the actors from a city and films. There's like so many others. They're just doing theater, or you know, but they are not in films. So when I tried to make a film there, and I only did 2, all the other ones are in the countryside. My instinct is to do something different. It's just my instinct, you know. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
There's something that I find it interesting, and I have no idea if you agree, but there goes a statement. I think in Brazilian cinema, recent Brazilian cinema, there are a lot of filmmakers and a lot of films exploring genre in many different ways, like horror, some aspects of sci-fi. But at the same time, sometimes I feel everybody's kind of shy, timid about, like, I will touch genre, but not go that much. Did this project started like that, or uh, even before all the things that happened in between? Um, or were you, because it feels for me like a statement from you, like I'm gonna go full body and soul, head first onto the sci-fi. Like I have to put like a radical approach to it, I think. Uh, and I want to know like if it's like a statement like.
That's good to hear. That's for you. It's radical. I never thought about it. I have to say that's like my previous film, Continent. I thought it was too radical in the end, and people got like, I mean, the reactions were weird because it was too violent, and it was a horror film, by the way. I mean, and it was too violent, and it was difficult to like to market the film because even though like it was too weird for genre festivals and it was too violent for weird festivals, so we were like we got in between, and then but I mean, what can I do? I think what I like to do in terms of genre since Castanha is like to blend, to mix different things. You know, Castanha, there's like documentary, fiction, and ghosts, nightmares, lots of blood, rifle, neo-western, documentary fiction again, continent, lots of horror, lots of gory. I mean, political, social political story. I mean, in this one, I knew that I wanted to explore science fiction, cyberpunk, B-movie vibes, but as a space to meditate. You know, to take these genre elements and create like a space where we could meditate on the themes that I wanted to address. Maybe that's why it's more like straightforward to the genre, because it's like I'm not hiding that is like a sci-fi,
Yeah.
you know. And maybe the weird part is like is not sci-fi, is not like too traditional. I don't know. It's like it presents itself as a sci-fi, and then suddenly you understand there's like, okay, there's nothing happening in this film. It's just like people walking and talking shit. I don't know. But I mean, I like the idea of blending things out. I mean, mixing things. I think it's where we could maybe find something new. You know, I don't know that I'm not saying that I found.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that this possibility of finding something new, it's for me, is very very refreshing.
I agree, and for me, you don't have to be traditional to explore genre in this way, but it's interesting to see this approach. It really works for me because it says something. Yes.
Um, First of all, it was a very interesting experience. Very, as you said, a meditative state of contemplating a very silent violence, right, that we're living these days. My curiosity would be how does it come about? I don't know your filmography prior, but you're saying that's very aggressive, violent, and then here you're just like taking us by the hand through the human experience and all this tragedy that's happening right now. So how to write this? How does it come about for you?
Only I have to say, only my previous film is violent. Okay, my second one is a bit violent too, but not that much. The third one is okay. It's quite violent. Don't watch it if you have a problem with violence. About how I approach this. I mean, I meditate a lot, so maybe probably that's why it's meditative. I meditate every day. I mean, for a lot of years, so it's like it's a part of my life. And what happened is that I think Continent, my previous film, this violent one that I said, it was, I wrote with 2 other writers, and it was a film that we discussed a lot, all the elements. It was like overly discussed. Is that right? And I was tired of it, you know, in the end. And of course, all my in shooting, I'm like usually quite an instinctive person during the shooting, and because I am like this, I'm like to improvise a lot. I like to change. I'm not a person that like to repeat itself over and over again. So what happened with this film that is like when I started to write, I really wanted to create a process where I could follow my instincts about what I was feeling, and of course about all these themes that we are talking about, but not exactly as a statement, but as something that I could share with you as a feeling. And so there's some elements, for instance, that people sometimes ask about the film, like the octopus and stuff, and I don't like to talk too much about it because it feels too easy, you know, too cheap sometimes, because it didn't come as something that I thought too much, you know. It was there, and there's of course meaning in it within. Of course there is. I hope there is. But yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I was most curious how this story came to you.
Okay. It had many reincarnations, I think, as a story, because it was a project that I started 2017, and then I almost financed this film at the time, but I wasn't able, and then I rewrote the film, and then I redid it again, and I mean, it had different reincarnations, but if I think about the beginning, the idea was the same, like how to express, as you said, this invisible violence that we live in. And in some ways pretty much related with the previous film, like Continent, because Continent, even though it's a different film in terms of writing, because it was much more discussed, as I said, it was a film that we really wanted to do. We wanted to do something that could express a feeling of this structure that we live that should produce violence to exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes it's difficult to talk about those things in English, but I mean, I think in some way this film is pretty much the same, the essence. You know, it's a system that we live in that I believe that should produce violence to exist. An illusion.
Yeah.
I really like when I see films that are kind of like, you see almost like a path from the director. But I really like your career, that kind of, for me, is kind of unexpected. So like when I think about Rifle and I think about this film, I was like, oh, I see and I don't see it. And I really like it. So I really appreciate you sharing the film with us. Thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you guys for staying. Please come back tomorrow for our last two